Let's begin at the beginning. Theory of constraints is the kernel of our science of work. We call it a science because it sits in the realm of falsifiable hypotheses, like Ohm's law for electricity or Boyle's law for the relationship of pressure, volume, and temperature. The theory states that all systems must have a constraint, or else their output would be infinite. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't know any system that produces an infinite output for a finite input. It's the business equivalent of the perpetual motion machine, infinite return for a fixed amount of invested dollars. If you can find such a business, the theory falls over. But then I would be happy to retire and invest all my savings in such an enterprise. Until then, I feel fairly confident there's much to be gained from finding what this constraint is in your value creation engine and getting the most out of it. There is, of course, another option when it comes to constraints. Remove it and the system collapses. In the business world, this means either complete your work in no time and at zero cost, or go bankrupt. So, you really do only have two choices. Either you manage the constraint, or it manages you. This insight not only justifies the theory of constraints as a valid scientific hypothesis, but has profound implications for the management of systems. Constraints govern the rate at which value is created. Any system has one constraint that has the most impact. You can think of this as the bottleneck or the weakest link. Crucially, it's the point of greatest leverage. Because a gain for the constraint is a gain for the system as a whole. And the constraint must do only that which only the constraint can do. The idea that non-constraints have capacity relative to the constraint is one of the core insights turning the conventional notion of efficiency on its head. Since TOC is about managing systems, let's now take a closer look at systems. At the most basic level, all systems apply effort to inputs to turn them into outputs. What we would all like to see with our value creation engine is to maximize the output with the least effort on the inputs. It's the very definition of productivity. Maximizing productivity of our value creation engine means we can be more responsive, deliver to our promise, and ensure a quality outcome. But to know how we're doing, we have to instrument the engine and know what we're measuring. The universal measure of instrumentation is return on investment, or ROI, whether we're talking about for-profit business, schools, or wildlife sanctuaries. In the world of business, we measure ROI as the ratio of profit to investment. In our Ensemble way, we need to know three key financial measures. The first of these is throughput, or the value of sales less the variable costs associated with those sales. These costs could be commissions, royalties, materials, and the like. In other words, a variable cost is one which is only incurred if the sale goes ahead. We are all familiar with the concept of operating expense, made up of labor plus overhead. Unless labor is contracted on a piecework basis, it's included in overhead. Items like rent, communications, insurance, and the like make up the overhead part of the OPEX equation. Finally, investment is everything you find on the balance sheet, the assets and liabilities of the business, both long and short term. It includes all inventory, whether raw materials, work in progress, or finished goods which haven't yet been sold. Clearly, what we want to have happen is to increase the ROI, which means increasing throughput, whilst at the same time keeping operating expense and investment the same or decreasing relative to the increase in throughput.